Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
It comes down to the reason why banks have fallen behind. Typically, what they do is they just take a version of the system and then they keep customizing it, they keep changing it. And then later, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, they were never able to upgrade to the next version because it's just like too expensive for them to upgrade. With our operating system, it is just like your iOS. The upgrades are invisible. It just happens. And banks have to just accept that upgrade and then just go live.
That was Booshan Rengachari, the founder and CEO of Finzly, and he is my special guest on this episode 319 of the Leaders in Payments podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Myers. Finzly helps banks break free from the constraints of legacy core and launch new financial products with unprecedented agility and speed. Booshan and I dive deep into Finzly, including what makes it unique and different in the marketplace. We also discuss how and why Finzly was started and how they are helping banks with payment modernization, international banking, digital banking, and banking as a service. We've got a great episode ahead, so let's get started. Hi, Booshan. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast.
Thank you, Greg. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and dive right in. If you don't mind, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, maybe where you grew up, where you went to school, where you currently live, a few things like that.
Perfect. Great. So I'm from India. I studied in India, born and brought up in a weaver family. I went to school without shoes. So but I had big ambitions even from my childhood. I always wanted to be something bigger than what I was. So I went to engineering in India. 1 year later, I was here in the US, worked in the telecommunications sector. Then later, I joined Wells Fargo. It was about 18 years ago. I worked there. It was Wachovia at the time. Wells Fargo, Wachovia merger. I was a leader for international banking leader at Wells Fargo. Went through a lot of things during that merger. Like certain things, was challenged with the technology. And then at the time, I realized, hey, it has to be better. So that's the birth of Finzly. 12 years ago, I started Finzly with the ambition of transforming the banking sector, financial technology, making it easier for banks to launch new products and services. And that's what we are doing and been really doing good.
So you started Finzly in 2012. Let's talk about some more of the details. So tell us, the audience, sort of exactly what product services you offer and who your target audience is.
Yeah. So when we started 2012, right, it was all about foreign exchange, international banking. That's what I did a lot at my previous job. It was, the big banks like Wells and other players. They have army of people and ton of money they can throw at anything they want to do in terms of making the processes better, making the user experiences better. And what I realized, it was 30, 40-year-old technologies. Again, there is no other new player in that field. And all we ended up doing was just creating patches over patches and making it look good for the customer. And operations team had a terrible time in dealing with those platforms, outages and missed payments and reconciliation issues, that kind of, a lot of challenges, totally outdated technology. And being an engineer, I felt like, hey, this is a terrible system. Let's do something better. Let's do something great for our any bank, right? Big banks can throw money, they can build it out. How about mid-sized and other regional community banks? What do they do? So our journey started in building that international banking platform. So we focused on foreign exchange, buying, selling currencies, sending payments. And, it's just not international payments, right? Foreign exchange is a lot more than just sending a payment. For example, let's say you're sending an invoice to a vendor or supplier in Europe, and they're going to make a payment 6 months from now, which means you're going to receive about 10 million euros 6 months from now, and you don't know what is the dollar value when you receive that payment. You can go and hedge that one with a forward contract, and you can lock in that price today, and your bank will honor that price whenever you receive that payment 6 months later. So this is a very complex but very sophisticated international banking, foreign exchange, and international payment system. That's what we built. And we have been very successful in that space. We are the market leader today with respect to international banking and foreign exchange trading platform, right? 6 years down that line, we realized, hey, this space that we are operating is a smaller market opportunities. It's not a lot of banks have that kind of sophisticated customers who want such sophisticated products, payment. And then we realized, hey, we are doing already a lot of payments, and why don't we extend our platform to do other type of payments? So that's when we thought about, we just didn't want to build another payment system. Our goal is not to displace other payment platforms that are already there, but our goal is to look at, hey, what is the pain points of the banking? What are the pain points of payments today at the time, right? It was about 5-6 years ago. What we realized was, what we discovered was, as part of that research, banks today, even now, they operate different payment rails, like ACH payment system, and then wire payment system, and then FX payment system. And then recently you can add Zelle, RTP, FedNow. So banks are operating like 6 different payment systems internally. That means they have 6 different payment operations team. So if there is an issue with ACH payment, you have an ACH operations team. And you have wire operations team just to process wires. And then FX operations team to process FX payments, right? You have that many teams. And now if you look at the customer experience, you have that many experiences. It was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And at the time, it is like, why is it not like FedEx? You go to FedEx, you want to ship a package. You don't have to tell them ship it by flight or by train or by truck. But the banking experience is exactly like that. And we realized that it has to be like a FedEx experience. I just have to tell the bank where we want to move the money and how fast, economy, express, or real time. And let the bank decide however it want to move the money. So, that was our vision. That's what we want. We started thinking about that. That's how we started building about. It was a very adventurous journey. And I realized why it was kept so differently, because it was every payment rail has different complexities, rules, and workflows. And bringing all of them together is like bringing a dinosaur, an elephant, a cow, and a horse, and putting it all together in one platform, right? One cage. So it was hard, but but that was needed, and we did that one very well, successfully. And we are the only player who can do all of those payment systems, and we can displace any of those payment systems and help the banks to provide that FedEx experience. And they can have just one payment operations team. They don't need to have ACH, wire, and other so many operations team. They don't need that many experiences. It is one experience, one team, one platform. And that's what the banks need, and that's what we are doing. And we are getting phenomenal review about what we have built, because it was a failure. A lot of people have tried what we have built, and a lot of them have failed. But we are very proud to say that we have done that very successfully.
Is there a certain size bank that typically buys your product?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Our goal is to build a product for the banking. And the size, it should really doesn't matter. But we started with a smaller mid-sized banks category, because that's easier to sell, easier to convince. Larger banks, it's just a very long sales process. But the problem is the same problem even with the larger banks. The thing is, with larger bank, it's like, when we looked at how we want to, what kind of market we wanted to target, our thought was like, hey, let's think about how other players have disrupted a similar industry. So if you take a CRM system, earlier, almost every bank, every business had their own CRM system. And then Salesforce enters the market, and they build that very nice, extremely configurable, extremely superior CRM platform, and small businesses start using it. And now almost all the major banks also use Salesforce. So our approach is almost similar, and we wanted to target banking, and which means if we deliver quality product with quality, extremely highly scalable, configurable platform, then you can serve banks of all size. That being said, we right now we target banks of any size over $1 billion.
And you mentioned all of the different products that they can get from ACH to Zelle to RTP. Is it a menu, or do they have to get it all at the same time?
Yeah, I think that's another great question. The reason it is important and why it is a great question is because every bank has a different need, right? I spoke with a bank and they were like, "Hey, I really need to get your wire platform now and tomorrow because we are having a lot of challenges with our wire platform." The reason is like when I was having this conversation, there was a production issue and the executive had to leave that room to take that call to do whatever needs to be done. The problem was there was a one bad wire and it was not able to get processed. And that was blocking all other wires from getting processed. So it was sitting in a queue, and the front guy who's just blocked that entire counter, he's taking so much of time and he's not getting out of that queue, and everybody else is waiting in that queue. That was a very, very bad technology. And, that was that bank's problem. And for them, the need is, I really don't worry about, I need all of those things, but my immediate need is to fix that wire issues and need to provide a better wire platform. So, we said, yes, you turn on wire. We do the implementation only once and they turn on wire. And the next time they want to do RTP Fed now, it's just here checking the box and then testing and launching that product. That is, again, not very common in the banking sector, right? Any new product that you want to launch, it takes about 2 years, 3 years. If they're lucky, they go live. Otherwise, they scrap that project. But with us, what we do is it's kind of an operating system. Just like your iPhone, you like an app, you add it and, you test it out and it works. Just like that, we first implementation, we do that. After that, anytime they want to add new products or new services, they just turn on the new, click the button, it's available. And the beauty of that is, banks will never be falling behind in terms of innovation because it's an operating system. We keep adding new products, new solutions, which means banks can continue to compete with any players, any fintechs, any large banks. And that's super important, right? So to your question, it's an app store model and with multiple banking apps, and banks can choose what they want and when they want, and they can go at their own speed.
As you know, and the audience probably knows, most banks have a core system, right? Maybe for deposits or whatever, but they all have a core, and there's a group of those that have built that over the years. Do you sit on top of that, or do you replace that?
So we sit on the side of that core, okay? A lot of this core platform, again, it was built like 40, 50 years ago, not real time, not built for what we need today. A lot of the cores today, they go down for almost 1 or 2 hours. In fact, we have built such a good infrastructure monitoring system. We send alerts to our banks telling them, hey, your core is down because it just goes down. Unbelievable. So, as part of the operating system, we have few offerings, right? Earlier, we talked about the payment, unified payments, consolidating all the payments, which we call it Payment Galaxy. And we have also released a product called Account Galaxy. It is for creating virtual ledgers, virtual accounts. So for example, I'm an escrow management company. I want to create a lot of, new accounts. Every time I want to, create an escrow account, I don't want to go to my bank or call my relationship manager to create those accounts, right? I can just go to this virtual account manager and create as many accounts as I want. And I want to create a different account for expense management. I want a different account for accounts payable, accounts receivable. So you can basically bypass the core. In other words, you can have just like one FBO account in the core, and then you can create as many virtual accounts as you want in Finzly's core, and that becomes your modern virtual core, which is real time, powered with all payment rails. So that's the option that we provide. And again, banks can continue to use their legacy core platform if they want to, and we just sit on the side for payments. So there are multiple options, right? Multiple ways, and that's why we call ourselves as a bank transformation player, because bank doesn't want to get disrupted, right? Nobody wants to disrupt their customers. Disruption is a bad word in banking, but transformation is the most important thing that needs to happen.
Well, what would you say maybe the top 2 or 3 things that truly differentiate you from your competitors out there?
Yeah, so for us, we help the banks to stay competitive, to stay innovative. They should be able to offer any fintech products they want to offer. So today, if you look at it, a lot of banks, they have fallen behind, and the fintechs are ruling in terms of the customer experience, in terms of new product offerings, and banks have become a back office. And we are changing that one with a platform, an operating system that allows banks to compete with any fintechs, any large banks. And our capabilities, we can compare with Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan type of capabilities when it comes to the virtual accounts, payments, and foreign exchange capabilities, right? That's one thing. That's one of the major benefit that we bring to the customers. And the other one is continuous innovation, right? As it is an operating system, we continue to deliver new products, new services, and the banks have the flexibility to add whenever they want, whatever they want. All they have to do is just add that product, test it out, and then go to market. And the third one is, it comes down to the reason why banks have fallen behind. Typically, what they do is they just take a version of the system and then they keep customizing it, they keep changing it. And then later, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, they were never able to upgrade to the next version because it's just like too expensive for them to upgrade. With our operating system, it is just like your iOS. The upgrades are invisible. It just happens. And banks have to just accept that upgrade and then just go live. So these are the very modern engineering magic, you can say, that is important for banks. And we are very proud. And we are the only player who can do such capabilities, who can help banks to transform like this.
Well, where do you see the payments industry headed, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
So, payments is very interesting. I just 2 days ago, I just saw the news. ACH volume is continuing to grow, and I'm also observing how many new payment rails, how many new banks are adding and signing up for Fed now. The future is all real time, connected, embedded. So that's where we are heading to, right? Which means you file an insurance claim, the insurance company approves that payment. The payment is in your account within seconds. And future is all about real-time taxes, real-time tax returns. You don't have to wait for a year to pay those taxes. You don't have to wait for months to get those returns. And you have your new baby born in the family, and it's a tax return time, and you don't have to wait till that year end or April to get those returns. It has to be happening real time. There's a disaster happening, and government should be able to distribute that early benefits even before the disaster strikes that place. So, which means that almost all the people, businesses must be connected, must be real time. So, anytime that I want to move the money, it must happen real time. So that means that there is going to be a lot of activities that's going to happen in RTP Fed now. The adoption rate has been slow, which that has been the history with any payments in the US or any developed economy, because people have invested a lot in the previous technologies, previous payment rails, and it's changing, right? It's like building the road, and then after you build the road, you need to have gas stations, you need to have convenience stores, you need to have restaurants. So all these things, as it comes up, then you'll start seeing more people starting to use those highways. So that's what is happening in this space. I would say in the another 3-4 years, you will see more and more adoption of real-time payments, and there will be less and less use of outdated payment options that is out there.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you. And you told us a little bit about your journey already, but maybe walk us through, how did you get into international banking? What was the reason for that? And then maybe kind of walk through how you went from that to starting Finzly.
Yeah. I'm an engineer and I love engineering. I started doing computer programming at the age of 12 and I just loved it. So when I did my engineering, again, I picked up computer science and, I love solving problems. And when I picked up a job, I wanted to be in research and development. I picked up a job in that similar area, and that happened to be in the networking and communications. And spent few years, really good years, and I enjoyed it. It was like super good, true engineering work. And at the time I was working in New Jersey, so there were a lot of job opportunities coming from finance. And I was like, I don't want to be in the finance because I was doing core engineering, like creating the network equipments, how to communicate between the network equipments. And I didn't want to be creating web pages, accessing database, it's just kind of, I was like, it was not true. That's not challenging. I didn't find that to be very challenging. So the .com burst, a lot of network companies just kind of went bust and there were not many opportunities. And I was forced to enter into the finance field. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised how beautiful the finance world is. And, I got exposed to quantitative math. And it was like I never used the math beyond my college because I did study derivatives, integrations, and all the calculus stuff, but I could never able to apply that in the real life. And I saw those quantitative analytics, quantitative math being used in finance really well. And I was like super interested in that one. And then I started learning more and more about what it is, applied for CFA and did one level of CFA, just gave me more exposure to what it is. And accounting is one thing, just kind of made me so happy about how well accounting works to reconcile the balances between two parties. It was like so good. So I fell in love with finance. Again, after my stint at Wells Fargo, I realized there is a lot to be done. Technology has been very much behind at the banks, and so is in other major sectors. I wanted to change. I was the only breadwinner at my family, and all I had was 1 year worth of savings. And I told my wife, "Hey, I want to do this one. Worst case, I will lose all of this money, but I will not have any regrets of not trying." So, she gave me thumbs up and then I just started this journey and it has been wonderful. Spent first one and a half year developing the product, consulting because, being in Charlotte, it's not like Silicon Valley. I didn't have a lot of, it was like 12 years ago. At least now it is better. There were not enough venture capitalists and I didn't have any exposure to raising capital. I didn't have any advisors who can advise me of that, but I just wanted to try. So, and I have to live on my own income. So I did some consulting, I did the product. And then after 1.5 years, I got my first client. So at the end of 2 years, we went live. After that, it became more of easier to sell because it is hard to sell to banks because they are very highly regulated. They are very conservative, very risk averse. But, I think it's all good fortune, I have to say, because it all kind of all aligned up. I found a great banker who is ready to take that risk with me. And because of my experience that I had at Wells, this guy knows what he's doing. And, we just partnered and we went live. And after that, every 3-6 months, we started adding new clients. And here we are. Now, we are disrupting this industry. We will be the number one player in another 5-6 years when it comes to the banking technology and payments.
Well, what are some things you're passionate about? So maybe one work-related passion and one personal passion.
I mean, since the last 2 years, work has become my part of, I never go home without thinking about work. It is hard to switch it off. But outside work, I do enjoy hanging out with friends, partying, and I enjoy doing workouts. I do martial arts, and I watch cricket. Cricket is a game popular in India, so those are my other hobbies.
What about work related?
Work related, I just love creating something interesting, something magic, right? Engineering is all about magic. If you just solving the same problem the same way, it's not magic. You need to do something totally different. What makes me so happy is when I go to a customer and then I hear their problems and then say, this is how I solve it. And then their face just like kind of lights up, gets excited. Really, you can do that. And that makes me so happy because that, looking at that problem 5 years ago and creating a solution, we know that's going to be a problem and makes me feel that, hey, what we realize is going to be the problem is really happening now. That's a good direction. I love people right now. And one of the things at Finzly is that we care about our customers and we care about our employees, really well, both of them, right? Without them, we won't be here. So every customer is important and every employee is important. We make sure our employees succeed in their goal, in their ambitions, and they enjoy their life. So I enjoy creating a great team, great culture. We want to make a difference. So that's all I'm for. And I enjoy doing that one.
Well, as you know, the fintech and payment space is quite an exciting place to be, and it has been for a while, and I think will continue to be. If you had someone come to you and say, "Hey, I'm coming right out of college and I'm looking at building a career in fintech or payments," what would you tell them? What would your advice be to help them be successful in their career?
I think if you want to start any company, right? Starting a company has been my goal even after I left my college. I did try several things, but it was not a great success. But before you start a company, you need to know what problem you are going to solve. If you have a very strong, compelling problem that you want to solve, you can go after that one, irrespective of whether you are a fresh college graduate or you are 30-year experienced person. Because I do hear a lot of people regretting that, hey, I always wanted to start a company, but I could never start. I was like, start now. If you know there is a problem and if you want to start it, there is no better time than now. When I started, I had a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. And it was a lot of responsibilities for me. But I said, I cannot wait. I have to start. So I think, anybody who wants to start, they need to have a really good problem to solve. And they should be very passionate about solving that problem, nothing else. Everything else will follow. Like, for example, you want investment or you want to have a great returns, everything, money will follow, but you need to be passionate about what you do. And you need to be solving some big problems. Like solving small problem, there could be too many competition. Anybody can solve smaller problems, but bigger problems are hard to solve. I think that's what I would advise people to go after.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. Well, we've covered a lot of ground so far about you and the company and the industry as a whole. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, I think it's great. Great conversations. I think we are very happy about the difference that we are making here in the banking space, because all of the banks, they really needed help, because they want to compete with the fintechs. They want to provide these modern experiences. They want to compete with bigger banks, and they need to simplify their operations because, if you look at most of the banking systems, the bankers behind the scene, they keep it running. They have a very terrible work experience because all those systems are totally outdated. So, we are very happy to give a better experience to the bankers. That's a better experience to the customers. Very excited about building this open, real-time connected finance. So, that's the future, and that's what we are building. Really appreciate engaging and asking such great questions.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I know your time is very valuable, so I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.